Hare Krishna! Here we are again. Welcome to our channel, Bhagavad-gita. Here it is, because we have it. Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we have started to read a massive chunk of verses in the 13th chapter describing knowledge from the spiritual point of view. So we will we will continue with that section, because Prabhupada has been commenting on all the aspects of the verse, and we got through maybe a fifth of that commentary. Something like that. Yes. So we will continue. Thank you. Stay with us. Hare Krishna.
Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalang.
I will read the verse again, because it has very many words, and for me, I kind of notice they don't always stick immediately, because it feels a bit like a list, but then when I hear it more times, then it kind of keeps coming back to me. So I'm reading, as usual, with the Sanskrit first, text 8 to 12 of chapter 13. Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa kshantirajyavam acharyophasanam saucham stahiryam atma vinigraha indriyarthishu vairagyam anahankarevacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukha doshana darshanam asaktir anabhishvanga putradara grihadishu nityang cha samachittatvam Ishtani stopapattishu mayi chananya yogena bhakti ravyabhicharini vivikta desha sevitvam aratirjana sangsadi adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartham darshanam etat jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yad atonyatha. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of the sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest. Even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, is Krishna speaking, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be, is ignorance. So that is one perspective. That is the perspective coming from the absolute truth. So we read yesterday quite a bit, and I will start where we ended. Tolerance is one of these qualities. Means that one should be practiced to bear insults and dishonor from others. If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insults and much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlad, in our Bhagavad-gita, we get to visit all the stories from the Srimad Bhagavatam also. We get to visit Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bhagavad-gita is fantastic, but even so, we get even more from Prabhupada's purports. A boy like Prahlad, who, only 5 years old, was engaged in cultivation of spiritual knowledge, was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlad tolerated him. So there may be many impediments to making advancement in spiritual knowledge, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination. So that's kind of a tough quality, because sometimes we can see that if somebody's trying to kill us in so many ways, maybe we'd rather leave the place. But the point is, it did not deter Prahlad from his devotional service. So maybe if someone's trying to kill us, we'd rather go away. But the other response would be to give up our devotional service in order to pacify that person. And that can really not be done. We can find ways to interact with, our family if they don't like Krishna consciousness. This happens, of course. Then we can find ways to be neutral with them. We don't have to put Krishna consciousness in their face all the time. But in our hearts, we don't compromise, because we have found the process that will take us back into the reality of the eternal spiritual realm, which is far more important than keeping people happy by changing who we are. But we also don't have to put it in people's faces. I mean, I have family, and I'd say that they have respected my choices, but also they're not particularly interested in Krishna consciousness. So, when the situation, when it's natural, I can bring things up sometimes, but a lot of the time I can keep that to myself. But what I don't do is give up Krishna consciousness, because, maybe my parents would have preferred to see me take a different path in life. Because, as much as I love them, I also realized that this life is such an unique opportunity for self-realization that I cannot miss it. I don't have to be obnoxious, and I don't have to be in people's face about my Krishna consciousness. I'll speak to those who are interested. But there is nothing that could be more important. And therefore in this world we have to tolerate, because we cannot change it. It's going to be cold in the winter. It's going to be warm in the summer. If we go out in the rain, we're going to get wet. We cannot change that. So if we think that adjusting to the material situation and to other people's opinion of us will change anything in this material world, it will not. But to give up our chance at spiritual realization in this life, I don't think so. And that's tolerance in a way. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. As for acceptance of the spiritual master, simplicity, so that's the opposite of duplicity. It doesn't mean one becomes simple in that way. It just means one is straightforward and honest, and it's a Brahminical qualification, and it's also a quality of a devotee. As for acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential, because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility, offer him all services, so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessing upon the disciples. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advanced without the disciples following the regulative principles. Or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served a spiritual master without reservation. We heard about this earlier on in Bhagavad-gita, where we hear that you should approach the spiritual master and serve him, and also inquire from him. And Prabhupada speaks in the purport there that both blind following and absurd inquiry is condemned, because we don't just hear, oh, that's a spiritual master, okay, I'll do whatever he says. We don't become zombies in that sense. That's sometimes the accusation. Oh, these people are brainwashed because they're following a spiritual master. No, you follow a spiritual master because you're so lucky to find a spiritual master who can lead you back to Godhead. But you bring yourself there. You're present, you're conscious. You're not just Krishna conscious, you're conscious. And also submissive inquiry. If we don't understand things in spiritual life, we ask questions. But we don't, what is the word? We don't challenge. Oh, what you're saying must be wrong. What you're saying must be stupid. That's not the way to approach. But the way to approach is, I can't understand this. There is a point here. There's a principle here. There is some something I heard or read or something you told me, and I don't understand it. Therefore, I have this doubt. Will you please clear my doubt? Because that we need to do. That's actually essential. Because if there are doubts, doubt is a sign of intelligence. But to just leave the doubt alone, it will fester. Mostly our points, our philosophical points, if we have doubts, it is usually due to not understanding the full picture, and therefore asking question is welcome. So that is part of it, accepting a spiritual master. Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath, but for internal cleanliness one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This process cleans the accumulated dust of past karma from the mind. Oh, isn't that nice? We have such a nice process. We're not scrubbing with steel wool. We're not undertaking very heavy austerities. We are just given a process that will draw us to Krishna, and then automatically everything else will become insignificant. Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress. Yeah, that's actually interesting, because sometimes you think, oh, I'll try this and see how it goes, and if it becomes too much for me, then I give up. So that, I mean, to start with, we want to observe, we want to check, we want to see if it's a proper, if it's a thing that's worth our time, that's worth our commitment. But once we make that commitment, it actually becomes easier. It's just like we have on special days like Janmastami, Krishna Janmastami, the day of Krishna's appearance. Then unless you have some problems with your health or something, or children also, or mothers who give milk, unless there's something like that, you fast. So Krishna appeared at midnight, so therefore this whole day goes by without eating, which is wonderful when it's a festival, because we can put all our time and all our energy into just hearing about Krishna, singing about Krishna, performing different services, decorating the temple, making garlands for the deities. There's so much to do, and in the spiritual world, in the spiritual existence, we are never troubled by being engaged in the service to Krishna and then realize, oh, I'm too hungry, I have to break and eat something, or I'm too tired, I have to break and sleep. So normal days, of course, we have a body, we have to take care of the body. We are very, Krishna consciousness is a very realistic thing, and eating also isn't a problem, because we cook, we offer it to Krishna, we take the prasadam, so it's also a spiritual process. But like one day in the year, or some of these festivals, you can just put all of that eating and sleeping, material needs to the side, and just go all in. So if you approach a day like that with, okay, that's it, I'm fasting today, I have so many services, there are so many programs, I will focus on that, I can chant extra the Hare Krishna mantra, you go all in like that, and it's not a problem. I mean, personally, I get a little tired and my mind gets a little less sharp if I'm fasting a full fast of the day, but it's not a difficulty. But if I go in and think, okay, maybe I'll fast, but if I get hungry, I can eat something. Or if I feel like not fasting, then I'll eat something. Then suddenly it becomes difficult, because I'm second guessing myself all the time. So that's just a simple example. I don't know how relevant it is if you have experience of fasting on Janmastami. But the same with this process. Once you take it up, once you're convinced, once you have taken that commitment, I am this spirit soul, I've always been this spirit soul, somehow or another I took a wrong left, I ended up in this material world, and I couldn't find the way out. And here I have access to this process of spiritual realization. So this is what I will do with my life. Then, of course, life has changes. I mean, I have been a nun in the temple, I've been a brahmacharini, I have been a mother of small children. Right now, I am working outside the temple, and I'm also looking forward to a couple of years from now that I will have some other service, have some other situation. So these kind of things, they change. But the understanding that now I have gotten the shelter of Krishna, now I have gotten access to this process of Krishna consciousness, and I'm very happy about that. And I don't want to change it. I want to hold on to that. Where were we? Steadiness. So of course, my steadiness is maybe not perfect, because you can have complete steadiness, which means moment to moment you have no attraction for anything else but Krishna, or service to Krishna, service to the devotees of Krishna. So of course I admittedly am not on that level, but I have enough steadiness to know what is Prabhupada saying here? Should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible process. So I'm trying to use myself as an example, and I realize I have a ways to go, and I'm now inspired to maybe try a little harder to be very determined to make progress in spiritual life, because it's actually, as much as it's the mercy of Krishna that we can connect to him, it's also kind of up to us how much we hold on to that mercy of Krishna. And self-control means that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. One should become accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress. This is real renunciation. The senses are so strong that they are always anxious to have sense gratification. One should not cater to the demands which are not necessary. These demands which are not necessary. The senses should only be gratified to keep the body fit, so that one can discharge his duty in advancing in spiritual life. The most important and uncontrollable sense is the tongue. If one can control the tongue, then there is every possibility of controlling the other senses. The function of the tongue is to taste and to vibrate. Therefore, by systematic regulation, the tongue should always be engaged in tasting the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna. As far as the eyes are concerned, they should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of Krishna. That will control the eyes. Similarly, the ears should be engaged in hearing about Krishna, and the nose in smelling the flowers offered to Krishna. This is a process of devotional service, and it's understood here that Bhagavad-gita is simply expounding the science of devotional service. Devotional service is the main and sole objective. Unintelligent commentators of the Bhagavad-gita try to divert the mind of the reader to other subjects, but there is no other subject in Bhagavad-gita than devotional service. So this is actually very interesting, because all the yoga processes, they ask for some form of sense control. That is always there. I mean, that is just one of the aspects of yoga. And it's sometimes difficult, because we're in this body, and the senses will have demands. And if you just have to shut it down, it's like if you have a child, and the child is, I don't know, if you do something that is dangerous to a child, it's not dangerous to you to be cooking on the stove. But if a child comes there and meddles, it suddenly becomes a very risky business. So you try to avoid that situation. And if you tell the child, no, don't do that, sit still, do nothing, that is impossible. A child cannot do nothing. Neither can our senses. So here we have engagement for the senses. Whatever sense you have that is very strong. If you want to see beautiful form, Krishna is the most beautiful. And we have the deity of Krishna in the temple, and the servants of Krishna every day decorate him with different clothes and jewelry and flowers. So the child or the senses, you can't just tell them to sit down and shut up. They need engagement. So our senses, our eyes, they can watch Krishna's beautiful form in the temple. Our ears can hear Krishna's beautiful name in the form of singing, or we can hear about Krishna, the stories about Krishna. The tongue for eating, we cook food and we offer it to Krishna. On the altar or in our home, we ask Krishna to please accept this offering. because I want to love you. I want to cook for you. Please come here and eat what I have cooked for you. And then when Krishna has eaten, there is still, everything is still there generally. Very rare occasions Krishna will take the food off the plate, but generally he just appreciates the offering in his own way. And then when you eat that, and you appreciate that this is Krishna's mercy, then that's how the senses are controlled, but not by shutting them down or killing them outright, which is impossible. It can be done for a while, but not for forever, because we are by nature active, and we are real, we exist. So does our senses, even on the spiritual level. So we engage it in Krishna's service, and that is the natural way of being drawn to Krishna and Krishna consciousness. So yes, as I said last time, this is a long bit of verse and purport, and I think we'll end it here for this time, and we will come back next time, and I hope you'll be there also. Hare Krishna.
Tack för att du tittar. Vi hoppas kunna lägga upp nya avsnitt varje tisdag och torsdag. Vi vill jättegärna få frågor och kommentarer där nere. Det finns också lite information och länkar och såklart subscribe-knappen. Tack! Hare Krishna. Vi ses!
I'm a Hare Krishna and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,